My name is Ernest Prabhakar. I had the honor of being the director of product at Quilt. I was a customer of Quilt before that at an artificial intelligence startup. And before that, I was an advisor to Quilt for many years. And it's very exciting to see how the market has evolved and how the company has evolved and how our product has evolved. And we are very excited to have this last session talking about kind of our vision of where we'd like to go and how we can all work together to get to that place. So this is what I like to call the Well-Quilted organization. And trying to think about how to, the subtitle Defouling Scientific Data Flows, I'll explain in a moment. But when I was trying to think of a metaphor for what we're trying to do here at Quilt, the picture that came to mind was of superconductivity. Now, guilty pleasure, how many of you indulge in speculation about this low room temperature superconductivity? And anybody big up on a prediction market? It's just me and Anish, okay? But it was fascinating to see, and I was a physicist in a previous life. I joke like most of my former physicist friends were writing tables for biologists now. So it's kind of nice to see physics back in the spotlight and seeing sort of ordinary people get excited about room temperature superconductivity. I'm old enough to remember the last craze over this a couple of decades ago, and someone pointed out the reason people seem to have gotten so excited, perhaps irrationally so, was because something that we thought was a fundamental part of reality, which is resistance, doesn't have to exist. And it just captured all this imagination of what the world could be like if we didn't have this resistance wasting our energy. And one of my favorite bloggers, Ben Stansel on Substack, he used to work for Mode before they got acquired. He said, what would it be like if we had data superconductivity? If we had no friction in our organization? I was like, no, that's a great picture of what we're trying to accomplish here at Quilt, right? Sometimes call it superconnectivity. If they do that, the right people always have the right access to the right data at the right team with zero friction. And to me, that's this kind of picture of maglev trains gliding along these rails, is that all your data bounce between your different systems, between your different functions, between your different stakeholders in a way that has zero friction. And that is the dream that we're trying to accomplish here as Quilt, is being the glue that helps bring together all these different systems so that you're able to innovate much more rapidly. And the thing that gets in the way of that is this wonderful acronym I've been playing with called FOUL data. And how many of you have heard of FAIR data? Right, everyone's heard about the term FAIR, right? So one is data, we've had the word FAIR data for years now, but we don't necessarily experience the benefits of it. And you get focused on this thing about, okay, what is exactly the points of leverage in our system that make data not fair but foul? And how can we work together to improve that? So I use the acronym FOUL. Talk about data that's fragmented in different systems rather than fully interoperable, obscure and without being accessible, and that could be either literally access controls or about documentation and usability. Unreliable data, the most heartbreaking story I heard was about somebody who got into a new job and his first task was to figure out they had this hard drive that had really valuable data, and they didn't know where it came from. And they spent 2 months trying to reverse engineer where it came from, and they had to give up and reproduce the whole thing at the cost of millions of dollars because this valuable data wasn't reliable. They couldn't trust who made it, when it was made, when it was changed. I'm sure this has never happened to anyone you know, but and hopefully none of you have been the cause of that. But this is the whole point of Quilt, and the reason why I brought Quilt in and my previous startup was that wait, no one can agree on what the data is. We can never find the right data. People spend their time arguing about different definitions of the data. And I realized, this is not my fault. This is Quilt's fault. Quilt exists to solve this problem for us. And that's the dream of making so that people don't have to have all these terrible, awkward conversations about data because Quilt is taking care of that problem for you. And the last piece, of course, is losable data, right? Data that is sitting on a hard drive somewhere and just disappears and no one knows what happened to it. And so this idea of foul data is kind of the organizing metaphor that I'm going to be using for the rest of the session, just to talk about what are the things that we can do to move to the super connected world. Again, not where everyone has access to everything, but the right people have access to the right things in the right way at the right time. And the idea that Quilt has been building around and we've already alluded to it a couple of times earlier today, is this idea of packages, events, and pipelines, which is at least the way that we think about the data mesh. There's lots of different terms and lots of different buzzwords. But the idea is that information is flowing throughout your system. At every resting point, you want to have a great URI that says, this is the thing that we have exactly at this point in time. And then when stuff happens, there's events that propagate throughout your network and then trigger pipelines, and pipelines trigger events. And the idea is that overall, across time, we're able to work together to get our different data islands sort of woven together into this not into a heterogeneous but universal network where all these pieces connect together in a seamless way. So what we're going to talk about in the next session is a couple of ways that we're taking some baby steps to try to create this beautiful super-connected world, working with our friends at Benchling, and then also around the Nextwell Pipeline, Tara from Benchling is here to join us today. Very grateful for being able to be here. And I'll just stop talking and start showing. So Laura would come up now. She can talk to you about some of the wonderful work she's been doing, building on top of Nextwell, and showing how to make data more accessible. Laura?